ground shaking, building collapsing, and tens of thousands of people losing their lives in front of you. It might seem that I'm describing a horror movie scene. However, I'm describing much worse, an earthquake. This earthquake sounds really horrendous and terrible, but how does an earthquake get triggered? Today I'm going to explain to you all about earthquakes. And I'm Tina M. Today I'm going to tell you the definition of earthquake, the cause, and how to classify and measure these earthquakes, and how to predict and prevent earthquakes. First is the definition. The definition of the earthquake is a sudden release of the strained energy, which is primary energy, in the Earth's crust, and resulting waves of shaking or seismic waves that radiate outside the Earth's source, and that causes the ground shaking when you experience the earthquake. Next is the cause of the earthquakes. There are various causes of the earthquakes, so I divide it into 4 categories. First is the tectonic plates. Under the ground we're standing on, there are 15 tectonic plates that move 1 to 20 centimeters each year. They can move apart from each other, but on the other hand, they can move towards each other, which can also make collisions. When they collide with each other, the edges get stuck because of the friction, and then one gets under one another and increases the pressure. But when the pressure overcomes the stress, it can get suddenly released, and the sudden energy causes seismic waves, also known as Tijanpa. Now you might have seen this kind of rubber band, and you might have played with it like this. And the sudden release is kind of like when you stretch it and get it loose, it'll fly away. That's kind of like the sudden release energy in the tectonic plates. The second category is because of faults, or tension. There are strike flip, reverse, and dip flip. Dip flip and also normal faults. The dip flip is a reverse and normal fault combined. As you can see in the picture, the strike flip fault moves sideways for each other, and the reverse fault moves upwards, and the normal fault moves downwards. Strike slip was also discovered in the San Andreas earthquake. The third cause is because of volcanic activities. Volcanic activities can make a lot of pressure underground, which can trigger the earthquake. Last but not least is because of human activities. You might be suspicious how humans can trigger an earthquake, which is a really big natural disaster. However, things such as mining or like military explosions, because of the pressure and mining is one of activities that get rid of the Earth's sources, can also cause earthquakes. Next, I'm going to tell you how to classify and categorize these earthquakes. There are 2 types of measuring earthquake, which is magnitude measure and intensity measuring. Intensity measuring uses Roman numbers, and it is based on observed facts such as the intensity that people felt while experiencing the earthquake. However, because it's observed facts of people's thoughts, it might be highly subjective. However, on the other hand, magnitude measure calculates the energy and is very objective. Next is classifying earthquake into 3 types. First is types, and second is magnitude, and last is depth. The types are categorized by the causes, such as volcanic explosion, collapse, and also tectonic plates, as I explained before. The magnitude is the magnitude 3.0 to 3.9 is minor, 5.3 is about intermediate, and 8.0, more than 8.0 is great. The depth is 0 to 70 kilometers is shallow, and 70 to 300 kilometers in intermediate, and 300 to 700 kilometers is very deep. Last is how to predict and prevent earthquakes. In the past, people have relied on forecasts, for example, like the volcanic activities. We know, for example, when you track and forecast volcanic activities, you can know from the past documents that the volcano erupted every 100 years or so. Kind of like that, when the earthquake was made, we can know from past documents. So people used to predict earthquakes like that, but nowadays we use seismometers, which is like that. That's a seismometer right there. And underground, we track the tectonic plates and seismic waves, so we can know if the earthquake is going to happen. There are also NASA's QuakeSim, which is a very high material that can help predict the earthquake. This is the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions before we go on to the quiz? If not, let me move on to the quiz. First, what do scientists use to predict earthquakes?
Using seismometer.
The answer is they use a seismometer to track the seismic waves. Next, how do people classify earthquakes? There are three ways.
Height, depth,
Yeah. The answer is types, depth, and magnitude. The types were the causes of the the earthquake. The depth was like 0 to 70 kilometers were shallow, and 70 to 300 was intermediate, and 300 to 700 kilometers were deep. And the magnitude 3.0 was minor, and 5.3 was intermediate, and over 8.0 was great. Thank you. This is my interpretation, and thank you for listening to my presentation.